Hi there, my name's Aaron Hockley, and I'm a photographer and blogger with a strong tech background, so I've kind of been involved with social media as it's evolved over the past several years. And I've seen a lot of good and some bad with social media as various companies and organizations have tried to figure out how to use it. Probably the biggest thing that comes to mind, and one of the most recent examples I could give, would be a publication called Cook's Source magazine, which apparently their model had been that they found content to use online and they then published that in their magazine. They didn't necessarily contact the original authors or obtain license to use the content directly. And in short, they got caught by somebody whose article they'd stolen. And this person wrote a letter to the editor of Cook's Source magazine, kind of calling them out on it and asking for compensation. And actually the person who originally contacted them didn't ask for a giant paycheck. She actually suggested that Cook's Source could take the money they would have compensated her with and donate it to a charity. Had they done that, probably it would have just kind of gone by the wayside and wouldn't have been that big of a deal. But instead, the editor of Cook's Source responded to the author with a fairly scathing letter of her own, saying that, well, I don't know that we should be paying you. Maybe you should be paying us, because after we took your content, we had to really do a lot of editing on it to make it ready for the magazine. And you should be thankful to us for, giving you that exposure. And, the reality is, Cook's Source committed copyright infringement in what they did. And based on the letter that they sent back to the author started spreading that on her blog, and it very rapidly got spread around Twitter and Facebook, and got picked up by some of the major tech publications such as Boing Boing and Gawker Media, and from there it actually spread out to the point where it got mainstream press coverage in the Washington Post and the Los Angeles Times. And it's interesting, if you Google Cook's Source magazine today, you'll find that nothing on the first page of Google results is actually Cook's Source magazine. It's articles about how dumb they were and how poorly they handled their case of copyright infringement. And because of social media, everybody now knows about what they did wrong, and the magazine has actually folded. It's gone under. They've ceased publication because their reputation was damaged so poorly by how they handled this situation that they couldn't recover from it. Usually, if a company isn't out there and already engaging positively in social media and something goes bad, usually what happens is they don't react well via social media. And it's not that they go out there with the intention to fire back and lash out and place blame solely, but I think it's just, they don't necessarily have the skill set or the knowledge of how to really interact properly with social media. And they don't understand that, we can go out there and have a two-way conversation with our fans, with our audience, with our customers, and engage. And if we screwed up, apologize in a genuine way and, show that we're engaged in that two-way conversation, because social media has to be social. It's conversational. You have two ways and two sides to all your stories, as opposed to traditional media where you just blast out your press release or blast out some sort of one-way communication with your audience. Try to avoid doing any further harm if you don't really know what you're doing. If you don't know how to engage on Twitter, hold off a little bit. Don't necessarily fire back on Twitter before you really understand how it works. Or, if you have a blog out there and you don't, respond to people who leave comments, think about it before you do, because, whatever you say is going to be out there. And, for better or for worse, once it's on the internet, you can't take it back. It's going to get archived in places and quoted in different places. And so think about what you want to say, and I guess what I would say is don't be afraid to apologize and say, hey, we screwed up. We tried to respond via Twitter, and it turns out we just weren't very good at that. So here's what we're going to do to make things right, and here's what we're going to do going forward. And you can definitely have the ability to repair your image via social media. It's a customer service interaction in a way, and that your bond with your customer, with your fan, or with your client will probably be stronger if you've screwed up and then made it right than if you've just been right all along. If they see that you care and they see that you're willing to change and adapt, they're gonna be a fan, because they're gonna say, hey, this company had this problem, or, they went out there and they made this misstep, but then they made it right, and they showed that they were willing to, alter their course based on what, their customers or their clients or their audience wanted. So, that's probably the other thing I would say, is that if you're going to do social business, you have to do it as people, not as, as companies. And, enable the people within your organization to get out there and be the people that represent your organization, rather than kind of a nameless, faceless account that, nobody really knows what it is, because all it does is tweet links to press releases or things like that.